finally time to hit the panic button for Indiana men's basketball. For some, it might be. For others, maybe a game or two more. But to us, well, you'll have to wait and stick around to find out if we think the panic button should be hit. Hello, everybody. I'm Evan Kamikow, and welcome to Before the Basket, your IUS-TV sports basketball pregame show. As always, I'm joined by Hank Joseph, and today, a special guest from thehoosier.com, Keegan Nickoson. Guys, welcome.
How's it going?
It's going great since I saw you in class lately. I mean,
thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in, Hank. We're back.
I mean, it's not going great, to be completely honest, but hey, we'll get into that later.
Exactly. Before we dive into anything, let's take you out to State College for a recap. Looking to right the ship against Penn State Nittany Lions, and it looked good early on for IU. Jalen Hood-Schifino, a nice finish there. Miller Kopp now getting IU going, finding Trace Jackson-Davis, slipping it to Jordan Geronimo with the finish. Hoosiers up too early. But that was about it for IU, as defending the three ball was a major issue. Andrew Funk with the three. Funk had 23 on the night. We flash forward to the second half, and that IU's defense still non-existent. Funk misses here, but Evan Mahifi with the putback easily. Just no defense there. Penn State sets a school record with 18 threes and cruises 85-66, your final from State College. Now more from Indiana head coach Mike Woodson after the loss.
I told these young guys when we got them this year, you got to grow up quickly. And it ain't just the young guys. You know, the Millers, the Geronimos, the Galloways, they are senior guys. They got to step up and play and give us more. And I thought that I thought Gallo competed, but, you know, Geronimo was all over the place. I thought Miller was all over the place.
I feel like that's something that's been just known that we've all said, and whether it's your writing, our videos, is that there's not a lot of depth that's really stepping up right now. Keegan, what was your biggest takeaway from the loss against Penn State?
My biggest takeaway was just how unorganized and unprepared everyone looked. You know, when Woodson's asked about it after the game, his go-to line, his go-to excuse is, you know, Xavier and Race are out. They're sitting on the bench next to me. And that's great, but if Indiana fans want to have no hope in the season, I guess that's what their reaction should be. Because he's given them no reason to think that it's going to get turned around. Same issues that they had against Kennesaw State, over-helping, under-rotating, whatever phrase you want to use, but just leaving shooters open, not following a game plan, or having the wrong game plan.
Hank?
Yeah, I think from a defensive standpoint, the last two games have been the worst, even, you know, outside of Kansas and Arizona. Those teams were just really good, but these last two games, it's been swinging the ball, getting wide open three-pointers for everybody. You said Funk had the game of his life last night. Seth Lundy played amazing, had 25. But they're just taking wide open three-pointers, and I wish it was easier for Indiana to hit wide open three-pointers, which they didn't get their first one until 30 seconds left in the first half. So, so many takeaways, and really none of them are positive.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads me into one of my concerns, and I'll get to you guys in a second, but Penn State had 18 threes in this game. You know how many Indiana had?
How many they attempted? 14.
Yeah, but how many they had? 4. You know, when you're looking at a game where Penn State literally had a program high record of 18 threes, and you can't defend that and put, you know, your hand in the face. Like, this isn't that hard.
I know.
This isn't that hard. I know. That's my concern. Keegan, what about you?
Yeah, and Woodson talked about it after the game. He said that they were getting a hand in the face, but that's all. That was their best defensive effort, was just getting a hand in the face. Otherwise, it was no one was near them. They lost them. Trace has to try to run from the post and make a defensive stop on a three-pointer. They got to take that extra step in and make them force the ball down. They can't let them shoot.
And what happened to that zone that they ran for a little bit against Northwestern? That was actually pretty successful when they moved into that extended 1-3-1, 2-3. They were switching it up defensively, and then this game they just decided, well, they're just going to hit shots on us, and that's just how it's going to go, guys. Another loss, you know, in the column. But you got to switch it up. You got to find something that's going to work, because you've got a bunch of athletes coming off the bench, and sure, offensively there's a lot of problems, but defensively this should not be such a concern, especially when you're playing small ball, when you've got Trace out there as the biggest guy, and you've got 3 guards and Geronimo, who's kind of a stretch 4. You shouldn't have this many problems defensively.
And no defense. There's also no energy on this team, it feels like. No one's coming off the bench providing that spark we saw in the NCAA tournament last year. That was Geronimo. There hasn't been anything like that. And you're, to your point, yes, there's injuries, yes, there is. But if you look at the last 2 games, even before Penn State, if you go back to Iowa, they had a 6-point lead at the end of the game and blew it. Yeah. This is something that we've seen coming in now. It's a 3-game skid. Anyway, earlier this week, though, Indiana's opponent, number 18, Wisconsin, hosted Michigan State in Madison. We'll take you out there for some highlights. This game was back and forth between the Badgers and the Spartans all night. Early on, Wisconsin down 2. Chucky Hepburn going to do it by himself. Takes on 2 Spartans, kisses the glass. Hepburn had 14 on the night. To the second half, Malik Hall going ISO ball on Carter Gilmore. Wow, just way too strong. Bringing Sparty now within 1. Game a little bit further on gets tied. Yeah, Hall loving that, his teammates too. Look at the footwork here from A.J. Hogard. Steps just around, gives Sparty the lead. Michigan State's going to win it 69-65. Now joining the show from Wisconsin's student paper, the Badger Herald, is Sam Harrigan. Sam, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, y'all. Happy to be on. Happy to talk some basketball before this weekend.
So Sam, how can the Badgers beat the Hoosiers?
Well, first and foremost, that's going to be really important to see if Tyler Wall plays. If he's back, he's probably going to finish the year as a first-team All-Big Ten selection. He was preseason first-team All-Big Ten. Missed the last 2+ games. Got hurt pretty early in the Minnesota game for Wisconsin. He's Wisconsin's best basketball player by far. And really, without him, they really kind of lack an interior force. Steven Crowell's been pretty good in the last couple games and has been a lot better this season than he was last. But they really just need a secondary inside presence. And while Carter Gilmore's been better than usual, he's still not as good as Tyler Wall, unfortunately. But assuming Tyler Wall doesn't play, it's really going to be kind of important to get the guards involved, whether that's Chucky Hepburn or Indiana native Connor Esijan off the bench. Esijan's been really good for Wisconsin so far this year, and just kind of need a little bit more out of him. He's been stepping up and been shooting a little bit more without Wall, but just going to need to see a little bit more of that, especially in a little bit of a homecoming game for him. Definitely a big role he'll need to play in order for Wisconsin to walk out of Assembly Hall with a win.
And finally, Sam, who is one Badger that will be the difference in this game?
Probably Chucky Hepburn, just playing point guard. Chucky's been kind of probably our second best player for the last 2 years since he arrived at Wisconsin. Started game 1 as a freshman last year. Everybody knows about the big shot he hit last year against Purdue, but he's been really good all year. Been a much better shooter than he was last year, but definitely has a tendency to continue to take some questionable shots as he did at the end of the Michigan State game this past Wednesday. But there's still a ton of talent there. He's still probably our best current player on the roster, especially with no Tyler Wall. He has ability to, he's an incredible defender. He has the ability to kind of control the pace of the game, and his teamwork, especially with Steven Crowell on those pick and pops at the top of the key, has been really important for Wisconsin getting offense, getting Steven Crowell involved. Those two work really well together, and if Chucky Hepburn has a big day, it'd be probably pretty hard to overcome that for Indiana, you would assume.
Thanks, Sam, for joining the show. Back to our panel of Hank Joseph and Keegan Nickoson. Guys, let's preview this upcoming game. Hank, I'll start with you. What does IU have to do to get back in the win column?
They're going to have to hit a lot of tough shots, and there's really no other way to avoid that question or to avoid the answer. Wisconsin plays very good defense. They always have under Greg Gard. And Indiana, look, if they can't get stops, then they're going to have to find a way to offensively put the ball in the basket. Trace Jackson-Davis simply has to have more than 14 points. We said that the last time we were in studio. We said it before the Iowa game. You have to find a way to get your best player the ball every single time down the court.
They need a complete overhaul of this program right now and this season. But the thing that I want to see is I want to see cohesiveness. I just want to see them on the same page, defensively, offensively. Woodson was saying after the game that they were doing things against Penn State that they never talked about in practice, in scout, and walkthroughs. And I just don't know how that happens. There's some disconnect here between the coaching staff and the players. It's where either the players think they can do it on their own or they just don't respect the coaching staff enough to trust the game plan, to trust what Woodson, Yasir, and Brian Walsh want to do.
So is it time, is it time to panic? We've said a lot of bad things. You bring in Mike Woodson, you're getting these 5-star recruits from out of state, yet it seems Purdue is still getting these 3 stars to perform better than Indiana's 5 stars. Keegan, should we be panicking yet?
If they don't win the next 2, I think you have to panic. If they can somehow beat Wisconsin and Illinois, that's a statement. But it's beating Wisconsin and Illinois that's going to be the tough thing. So I had in a column they needed to go 2-1 over this next 3-game stretch. They already have the 1 loss against Penn State. So they have to win the next 2.
And I'll defer to my dad's favorite game show, Deal or No Deal. I've got the button in front of me. I've got the case. It's time to hit the panic button, Evan. It's time. It's absolutely time. I mean, you've got the players responding to people on social media. I get it. We're in a different age where it's so easy to see criticism, especially when you're on the team, and you've got players responding to fans. You've got fans hating on players, and it just there is so much going on with this program off the basketball court. Nothing bad, but just you've got players that are unhappy, and you've got fans that are unhappy, and you've got a coaching staff that constantly says they want to find an answer and find a lineup, but nothing has come about that yet. So I'm hitting the panic button, and I understand people might say it's too early. It's January. I mean, it's January. We're less than 2 months away from the Big Ten championship or Big Ten tournament. And I mean, Indiana's 13th, guys, in the Big Ten, 13th. Yeah. They've played Northwestern. They beat Nebraska, thank goodness. But, I mean, they lost to Penn State, who, of course, Penn State always finds a way to play their best game against Indiana. But this is just, I mean, it's absolutely time to hit the panic button.
They are a Minnesota Conference win away from being dead last in the Big Ten.
100%.
That puts it in perspective.
That puts it in real perspective when you look at this team and the talent. Yeah, the injuries, whatever, we've said a lot. But to your guys' point, I mean, you have to panic.
Yeah.
I really think you have to. And it's one thing, you bring in Mike Woodson, you bring in all of this talent. This is supposed to be the year, injuries aside, you're supposed to be deep enough. Where's Malik Renew been? He played very well early on, but that's when he's playing talent that he saw at high school. You're not playing high school talent
in high school.
Worse talent than in high school. You're not playing that talent anymore here in Big Ten play. You know, Jordan Geronimo, huge step back from where we thought he ended the season. Miller Kopp, it's either he's going to score 30 points, which is once in a blue moon, or he's going to stand in the corner the whole game, maybe make a three, miss 3 others, and basically do nothing. The accountability, there's none. I think you panic. I'm speechless.
I would say to that point as well, if Mike Woodson expects his seniors or fifth years, which a few of them are, how are you going to take 3 shot attempts in a game when you're losing by 20 points? If you're Miller Kopp, look, at least take jumpers, okay? At least you've shown that you can make some. But, I mean, we have no offense. Indiana's no offense. So you have to find a way to get shots up. And look, if you're supposed to be this 3-point sniper and you're supposed to be this guy, why are you so afraid to shoot the ball? Yeah. Find a way, to get good attempts. And the only shot he missed was a designed out-of-bounds play for him that was wide open. So, I mean, look, it's just there's a host of problems right now. And for a team that was expected to win the Big Ten at the beginning of the season, shocker, the expectations were too high. Who's surprised? But regardless of the injuries, like you said, Evan, the depth is supposed to be there.
Yep,
it's not.
So let's make predictions. Let's have a good time with this, right? What a great transition. Prediction time.
Yes.
I'm going to go first. I got Wisconsin winning in Assembly Hall. We saw it in the game last year. Indiana had a late lead. They blew it. I think it's going to be the same story. I think they're going to blow a late lead again. Indiana's going to lose by 6. Keegan?
I don't think Indiana leads in this game once. I think that they continue to have a lackluster defensive performance. Wisconsin probably scores 80 points. I don't know how many times they've done that this season. I think it's Wisconsin 80, Indiana 71.
Are we going to go over 3 for IU?
Sandwiched in between. Look, we're on CBS this Saturday, 1 o'clock. You got to hope that the team gets juiced up for this game, right, Evan? You just have to hope that they can shut the noise out. Mike Woodson can get this team on track. How many times have we been saying that the last 2 weeks?
Or the last 10 minutes.
Look, if Tyler Wall is out for Wisconsin, that is a huge, huge plus for Indiana. He does have 3 days. He hasn't played the last 2, which we didn't really talk about. But Wisconsin sliding, Indiana sliding, everybody expects Indiana to lose this one, guys. Give me Wisconsin. Give me Wisconsin. I can't. I just can't. This team just hasn't looked good. They haven't looked good for me to put my faith in them, regardless of what the last couple of years were where, they're at home, they'll win. They're on the road, they'll lose. It's way beyond that.
Yeah.
Well, that's it from Before the Basket. Thank you so much for tuning in. For our director, Andrew Briggs, Sam Harrigan from the Delaware Lake Cardinal, Keegan Nickoson, Hank Joseph, Evan Kamikow. Will Indiana beat Wisconsin? Tune in to the game tomorrow to find out, and we'll see you next time on Before the Basket.